Welcome everyone to the brand new series, the Back Lounge Podcast. My name is Tank. I'm going to be your host, and I'm a retired roadie with over 15 years of experience in the touring music industry. I've done everything from guitar, bass, and drum teching to merchandise, lighting, production, and I even did pyrotechnics at one point. And rather than doing the standard sit-down Q&A interviews with these artists and people that I'm going to have on here, I want to take my experience of being on the road and have open conversations with band members, artists, other roadies, and anyone else with connections in the music industry. Because this is the first episode of this series, I'm sure there's some questions out there about the name, the Back Lounge. Why is it important? Well, the Back Lounge refers to an area on a tour bus, and that's where most people hang after working all day on a show on the road. People just hang out and relax, have drinks, and have interesting conversations. In fact, some of the most interesting conversations I've ever had have been in the back lounge of a tour bus. And since that's what I hope to bring you guys, I figured it's a fitting name. Now, in today's first episode, I have a very, very special guest, all the way from Sweden, the drummer for heavy metal band Sabaton, Hannes van Dahl. But before we get into any of that, let's just take a quick second to thank the sponsor of today's episode, Gothic Jewelry. Gothic Jewelry is an online retailer of fashionable and high-end jewelry that was started by three bikers and rockers that all loved fashion and jewelry because it lets them convey their own unique personalities and attitudes. But the only downside to a lot of the jewelry that they liked was that it was too expensive, so they decided to start their own company. Gothic specializes in stainless steel jewelry because they wanted to make it so anyone could afford jewelry that reflected their individuality. Their lines cater to both men and women, and they have everything from rings to pendants, bracelets, chains, earrings, and a lot of other really cool stuff. I've personally been wearing their jewelry long before they were ever featured on this channel. And while I gravitate to their Viking line of styles that they have a style pretty much for everybody. They have more religious stuff. They have stuff with skulls, marine themed styles, animal, gothic, minimalism, and a lot of other unique stuff that could fit anybody's personality. You can visit Gothic online at gothic.com without the O in the name. So it's www.gthic.com. They ship worldwide, and while their prices are already affordable at any budget, you can get an additional bonus at checkout if you use the code TANK20. That's TANK20. That'll get you 20% off on anything that you order, the entire order. So head on over to gothic.com and check out if they have a style that helps you express your individuality. But without further ado, let's just jump into this first episode. Ladies and gentlemen, Hannes van Dahl of Sabaton. Hannes, welcome to the very first podcast episode or whatever this is I'm doing, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, man.
Dude, thank you, man. This is always fun to do, especially like considering the time zones. Like it's pretty late evening there for you and it's still midday here. So
yeah.
Man, yeah, I appreciate it. This is going to be fun. As I said, you know, I've been doing interviews on YouTube for a little bit, but after I did a longer one, everybody kept saying they wanted more longer form stuff. And, you know, this is just going to work out to be like the first actual podcast release. So we got a while to talk and, this is going to be fun, man.
Maybe I hope I'll do good, you know, otherwise it's gonna be the first and the last one.
Dude,
like, that idea with having longer is like maybe not a great idea.
Nah, it'll be fun, I'm sure. I mean, we just talked for like 5 minutes before we even started and we were already having some laughs, so I'm sure it'll be good. But man, so let's just like start at the big obvious thing that's coming up. Sabaton.
The big issue that you interview my drum tech before me. We can start talking about that.
Dude, and I'll tell you what, man. It was a fantastic interview too, having him on. And especially from my background, like it was
great. I saw it the other day. I really enjoyed it.
It was, oh, thank you. And it was cool to sit down from my background with just another roadie, another tech, and just talk to him. And it's like, because these are always fun because, especially with the roadies, because we speak the same language. I know what he's going through on the road. And so when he's explaining to me some of the situations he's in, I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's great. But this is fantastic to finally get you on here as well. And it was funny how that happened, though, because it was right when I first started doing Sabaton reactions. And he just reached out to me and was like, hey, man, I saw your video and it's really cool. And then it just turned into, hey, why don't you come on and let's talk about it?
Oh yeah,
And
that's cool.
and you used to be a drum tech as well, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's right. I started drum teching when I was 16.
Oh,
So there
wow.
was, yeah, well, calling it, I wouldn't say professional drum tech,
Yeah.
but so we had this, like, there was where we used to rehearse with all these bands that we were in. It's actually owned by a motorcycle club, and there was like, yeah, rehearsal rooms that we could rent, and there was a band there, and they were like a lot older than us, and they had a good thing going for them, so we were always over there, and also like their drummer, he was there all the time playing. Like I think he was even delivering mail by night, so he would even like be there the whole day, and then they would start at 2 in the night or something. So he would be
Yeah.
drumming all the time, and so was I. So I would hang out with him a lot and talk about drumming, and he taught me a lot up there. And then they asked me if I wanted to go on a tour with them, actually.
Oh, that's
So I
wild.
started in drum teching, for a few bucks per show. But they did like a few European tours, and we did support for Hardcore Superstar, DAD, a Danish rock band. So yeah, it was
That's
cool.
that's awesome. I totally know what you said when you said I started working for a few bucks. Like,
Yeah,
dude, when I tell my friends like, I work for bands and stuff, they're like, "Oh, it's got to be good money, right?" And it's like, I mean, it took me years to get to the point where I was actually making a livable salary. My first gig I ever had, I think was like 50 US dollars a day, like per show
yeah,
day,
for
and
sure.
it's
Yeah,
and it's funny though because the same thing happened to me. It was totally on accident. I had been in a band, and one of the bands that we were touring with, I had become friends with them, and I just told them I was like, I'm not really enjoying being in the band. It's not the being on the road or anything. It's just I don't enjoy being in the band anymore. And when I told them I was going to quit, they were like, "You want to come work for us?" And I was like, "Yeah, why not? That
the
might be
same
fun."
band.
What's
Was that
that?
the same band?
Yeah, yeah. So it was. I don't know if you're familiar. It's a band called Red.
No.
They're a hard rock band from Nashville, but yeah, we were opening for them on tour, and then when I quit my band, they were like, "Come work for us." So my first gig ever was doing merchandise and lighting for this band, and then eventually it got to a point where, you know how it works when you're on a small crew. It's like you just start picking up other gigs.
Yeah.
So their drummer at the time taught me basically everything I needed to know about drums, and I became his tech.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
that got me into drum teching, and then I started bass teching and guitar teching and all that. And then it got to where I am now, and it's crazy because like, you know, we were on tour when the pandemic happened, and we all got sent home, and didn't know what I was going to do. But in the weirdest way possible, everything worked out perfectly because right when we got home, I found out my wife was pregnant, and then I was able to start doing YouTube and video stuff, which I knew nothing about until I started it. And then it's kind of just turned into this to the point where like I'm really not going to go back out on tour unless it's something, interesting that comes up. Eskimo Callboy from Germany is coming to the US at the end of the year, and they asked me to go guitar tech on that, which I'm probably going to do because it'll be super fun and, probably turn it into some YouTube content and stuff like that too. But
But is that like then the best of two worlds? Then you can actually choose the tours you want to do, and that you
yeah,
have that option for like you can more go into this would be fun to do,
yeah.
and you'll make money, etc. But which is totally perfect in that sense,
Yeah. And it's cool too because I never in my entire career that I worked for bands, it was never like I never went and specifically worked for anybody that I wanted to. Like I never really had a choice. It was something was presented to me and I took it. And don't get me wrong, I worked for some really cool bands that I enjoy, but for the most part, I was kind of an oddball out in terms of my music taste. Like, I'm a metalhead through and through, and for the past 6 years, I was working for a country artist from Nashville. So, like,
Yeah.
and the funny thing is, all the roadies from the metal world are now starting to go to country because they only tour on weekends and the pay
Yeah.
is actually pretty good. So, like, our monitor engineer on my tour with me was the old monitor engineer for like Dying Fetus and Cannibal Corpse and stuff like that. And then
Yeah.
we've got guys from like the Warped Tour scene out with us now too, and it's fun, man. But let's dig into what you got with Sabaton real quick, because just over a week from right now while we're filming, new album's coming out, man. The War to End All Wars coming out March 4th. Dude, I'm super excited, especially after seeing the 3 singles that have released already. And one of the other things that I love about a lot of your recent releases too is that Jonas Shelgren has been recording all of it, and it sounds good, man. How is it recording with him?
It's so smooth to record with Jonas. I mean, this is our second album that he's doing like the whole production.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, he's been doing like the bonus tracks and some live mixes and stuff like that. So yeah, man, it's great fun actually. He's a funny guy,
Yeah.
and he's I think like the way he works in any sense when you come into a new place or like to work with new people that you haven't worked like that, it takes a while to find your flow in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I can honestly say that I have not been laughing as much recording albums than I have with him.
Yeah,
And he's fast, like super fast. He knows what he wants, and he already thought about it when we get there, and then I had this. Here's a good example. When we did the Great War, I used a Yamaha steel snare, recording custom snare, I think it was. And for the War to End All Wars recording, I called him up before and I'm like, dude, I'm bringing a few extra snare drums. He's like, why? Yeah, so we can try some stuff out. Yeah, but you didn't like the snare sound on the previous one. Oh, I loved it. Okay, don't bring any other snares. Let's use that one. It was great. Which I kind of like, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Just kind of to the point, So yeah, I really like it.
That's awesome.
And then he's in the middle of a recording, he can try to sell you his car,
That's amazing. And that makes, I mean, dude, a good producer, not only just a good producer on the technical side of things, but somebody that's fun to be around like that, man. I mean, that makes a huge difference, because I've worked with some artists that when they're in the studio, like, they're excited to be recording, but it also seems like a painful process rather than fun and stuff like that. So that's awesome. And
it can totally be painful.
Yeah.
No, he's totally sweet guy, and no, I love that guy. And also, like, he does things his own way, and I think that's a really good strength of his, And super. And I'm super happy with the sound of the new album too. It's kind of the things that we might have. When you release it, there's always going to be some stuff after a while that, maybe we should have done that differently, or I should have done that differently. So now we had the chance, because we want to keep it very similar to the Great War, to tweak it a bit, and do the changes that we want to do.
Yeah. That's all. That's great, man. And it's funny because to me, he is like, when I grew up, I discovered like the Swedish metal scene pretty early on in my teenage years. I had a friend whose older brother was super into like In Flames, Dark Tranquillity, At the Gates, all that stuff. And then I discovered Scar Symmetry. So he's a guy that to me has been like kind of a legend since I've been a teenager. And then when I found out, when I started getting into the Sabaton production side of things, when I found out he was doing all that stuff, I was like, that is awesome. Like, and it seems like a very tightly connected community out there in that Swedish scene too, man.
Yeah. It is. I guess it is. And he's been doing so much stuff. All the project he's been doing. Yeah, multi-talented, great. And now he's putting out the Iron Master stuff. his death metal project again.
Yeah.
Super fucking cool.
Yeah, he's just seems super busy. I mean, speaking of the Swedish connection stuff, have you have you seen or heard the new Halo Effect stuff yet?
Yeah, I heard the first single.
The Shadow Mines, dude, that
Yeah,
is like I've been so excited about that just because that sound to me is like the sound of my teenage years. Like the Gothenburg metal scene really shaped my musical taste a lot when I was a kid, and it's really funny because while I was really familiar with it, I realized it never got huge outside of the small metal pocket in the US. Like
yeah,
even up I had never heard of Evergrey until I started my YouTube channel, a band that you've also played with. And like when I found out about that band, somebody's like, dude, this band's been around for like 20 years or longer. And I was like, what? Like it
yeah,
blows my mind how much music is all over the place and it just
yeah,
never makes it to the other side of the world ever.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, and that is like, but that goes for a lot of bands. Like Europe is one complete different market
Hmm.
to the US, and then Asia is also very different in that sense.
Yeah. Like
Also, we
people,
can have like bands that are even up here, we can have bands that are huge in Finland, but do smaller shows here, and vice versa.
yeah, people didn't believe me when I first started my YouTube channel and told like I'd never listened to Nightwish. I'd never listened to Sabaton. I'd never listened to like Blind Guardian, who's huge in Germany. Like so
Yeah,
many big bands in the European market that just never got gigantic exposure here. But I feel like in the last couple years, a lot of that's changed, man. And I don't, I don't want to like take credit on behalf of like reactors on YouTube or anything like that, but I feel like with the exposure with a lot of these bands, especially online nowadays, you're starting to hear about a lot of bands that we've never heard about before, and it's
yeah,
really cool.
yeah. Oh yeah, totally, and that's super helpful. I mean, YouTube, and also like music video wise, like it is the new MTV, but a lot
Hmm.
better in that sense.
Yeah, and
But
it's
you know what? And when I joined Evergrey, I never heard about them either.
really,
Yeah, but that's like me in a nutshell. Sometimes I just tend to live under a rock, and I
yeah,
was so focused on other things at that time. So,
yeah.
so I remember I was at that point taking drum lessons from a guy called Snowy Shaw,
Oh yeah.
who used to play for King Diamond and Merciful Fate and Dream Evil, and he recommended me to join them.
Well, didn't Snowy fill in for Sabaton for a while?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
he did
That's
for half a year or something like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that there you have the scene.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny that you say like the living under a rock thing because it's the same for me. There's bands from here that I've just now discovered too that have been around for a while. But one of the funny things, like especially in your area too, is or that I've noticed from doing reaction videos. One of the bands I like to point out is Orbit Culture. There's a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
people. There's a lot of people that have discovered Orbit Culture from reaction videos, and I've had people tell me they're like, "Dude, I live 20 minutes from their hometown, and I had never heard of them until I saw them on YouTube." Like,
yeah. Oh
it's
yeah, that's crazy. That's a great bunch of kids.
yeah.
I love it. Yeah, so cool.
Dude, I love their band. I had Nicholas on here too, and he's just such a nice guy. I feel like Nicholas eventually might be like another guy like Jonas, who you're gonna see like doing a lot of production for a lot of bands and stuff because
Oh, cool.
he works on all the Orbit Culture albums himself. Like he does everything, and I think that's cool that they signed with a label that allows him to just have free creativity on everything like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think you have to. Funny though, like we were listening to one of their albums this summer. So we were driving down South Sweden for vacation, and when me and my wife goes like driving somewhere, it's like uh, always like a war of what music we're gonna play,
Same with me and my wife.
which is like crazy. And she's so fucking picky about it too, like super picky about the music. But so we were trying a lot, and like she finds like half the bands I play is like super annoying. And then it's like, what about this? And she really liked it. So we listened to Orbit Culture for many miles,
Yeah, they
which is
had
cool.
they had an EP come out late last year, but their album that released in 2020, Nija, is just like
Right. Yeah.
It blew me away. I really think those guys are going places. And, you know, for me, Sweden has always been a great music scene, man. I like everything, pretty much every band that I've ever discovered coming out of there. And when I was a kid, we actually had some big crossover bands. Like Hammerfall was on MTV all the time when I was younger. And
Oh, yeah.
then,
Cool.
In Flames and Soilwork as well. Same thing. Like
Yeah.
you could turn on MTV2 or Headbangers Ball and they'd be on all the time.
Yeah.
But man, you know, speaking of, we're talking about music videos and stuff. The last three videos that you guys have put out, and really past that, you guys have been just crushing it with music videos lately in terms of the production and stuff. But specifically with Christmas Truce and The Unkillable Soldier, again, I mean, that was like just pure cinematic. I mean, those are movies, basically. Um, as opposed to something like Soldier of Heaven, where all you got to do is sit and play pretty much. And don't get me wrong, I know that gets tedious too because you have to do so many takes. But how different is it for you guys to go in and do something like a Christmas Truce? Is that more stressful for you, or is it more fun? How is that?
It's a great question actually, because so here's my take on that. I think well, before I did it, I had in my head that being an actor is like a walk in the park.
Yeah,
It's like it's totally easy job, and I don't know why I thought about it like that, but that's the way I thought about it.
hmm,
You know, I thought it was easy, and then we decided on going for Christmas Truce and do like so much more acting, and going to a production like that with a production company and a director that's used to doing, you know, Netflix productions and huge movies, you know, and in comes five, you know, musicians that shouldn't be there in the first.
yeah,
So there was a lot of rehearsing, you know, and like he also would pick the roles on what to play. So I was picked getting blown up and all this stuff, you know, and I'm like, I don't know. But then so you come there and we do a lot of testing of the wardrobe and stuff like that, right? And then before you shoot anything, it's because it's such a long setup time, you do rehearsals on set.
yeah,
And I think they were kind of still, you know, very used to professional actors. So I was there in the trenches from the scenes in the beginning running around.
yeah,
And it was the AD, the DOP, and the director standing there, you know. And the art director, he's like, yeah, you know what to do. You've read the script. Let's just go for it, you know. And they have this, you know, camera on it's called trolley
yeah, yeah,
or like on a rails, right?
yeah. The trolley or the rail system, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, just imagine you're in this war scene and you know what to do. And I'm like, yeah, do I really? So they're like, okay, action. And I started running, you know?
Yeah.
And after a while, there was like, cut, cut, cut. And everybody started laughing. And I'm like, what the fuck are you laughing about? Well, you look like an idiot, you know? And I'm like, do I really? And he's like, yeah, I'll show you on the playback. And I was like, holy shit, that looks ridiculous. It's like, okay, I need some help here, you know? And what's crazy is that what you don't think about when watching a movie or whatever music video is that everything is so scripted, and like you literally have to rehearse every step you take,
Hmm.
do it in the right speed so you don't run into a camera, or some other guys rehearse to come in from that way, and then will be explosions which you have to react, and your expression in your face will have to be right. So there's like this long thing that you have to get every second right. And with that being said, we don't even have any dialogue.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So after that, and this is like 5 in the morning, you know, like I don't know how many hours we shot those scenes.
Yeah.
So and you're tired and you have a hard time focusing. So man, I have the deepest respect for actors. Holy shit, you know,
Yeah.
really, it's
It's
tough fucking job.
actually, I think somebody did have a dialogue because I remember somebody yelling your name in the beginning of the video when you
Yeah,
got blown
maybe
up.
that was that was maybe what they thought we could handle.
Yeah, yeah. Dude,
So
it's
imagine though, like movie-wise, I think the hardest ones are not like Tom Cruise running around on. Oh, I have respect for that as well, flying off a airplane and stuff. But
yeah.
imagine those like movies where you have a lot of dialogue, like
Yeah.
a couple of minutes.
Yeah, and it gets
Crazy.
there's some movies I've been really hyper aware of that lately. So when I'm watching movies with my wife and stuff, I've noticed when cuz most of the time in a movie when there's a different camera, when there's a camera cut, there's been a cut there. They're doing it's so it's a completely different take.
Yeah.
But I've noticed in some movies I've been watching lately that if there's like a really long take with one camera, that it's like been like a 2 or 3 minute sequence, and I'll look at my wife and be like, they've been on the same camera for like 3 minutes. So that means they've been doing this same take that long. That's insane. And I have so much respect for that. And if you talk about like a lot of stuff that's CGI'd, whether it's explosions or like monsters or stuff like that, you have to basically make faces at things that aren't there, which is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
seems wild to me. Like you have to
Yeah.
pretend something just blew up next to you and be like, you know.
Yeah. Oh, so hard. And yeah, and you could also notice like making that and also like resetting all the special effects takes a few hours.
Yeah.
So if you, as a drummer and a very lousy actor, fuck up the scene, that's going to mean 2 hours more work for them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you could sense that, like, oh, here he comes, And then there would be people flying, you get dirt in your face. And I remember we had that wasn't that video, but we had a video a few years ago where the director came up to me and he said, okay, listen to me. I want you to, with your face, show me hope, anger, happiness. And I'm like, stop. Maybe I can do one.
Yeah.
I can only do one at a time, maybe. I can't do all of those. So yeah, hey, actors.
That's when like doing reactions on YouTube a lot. A lot of reactors come under scrutiny for acting, for like
Yeah.
you've seen this before, you're faking. I'm like, I'll tell you right now, I could not act my way through faking a reaction. Like if I watched something beforehand and then tried to act surprised, like you'd see it immediately. Like I am
Yeah.
terrible at that stuff too, man. And I've worked on a couple music videos when I was working for bands, and one of them was just a performance video, which is, fairly simple. They're just like, all right, play the song 10 times to playback and we'll get a bunch of shots and then clip it together. But
Yeah.
then we also did one that the song itself was like 4 minutes, but the music video ended up being 9 because there was like 3 minutes of story before it and then 2 minutes of story
Oh,
after it,
cool.
and tons of pyro and tons of extras. And the extras they had on the video were fans that just did like an open call to come. So now you're talking people that not only are they not actors, but they're also not stage performers, and they're fans of the band. So combine that with the fact that they're starstruck the whole time by being on the same set with the band. It took us. We started filming this video at, I think it was like 8 a.m. and I think we went a solid 24 hours before we
Yeah.
even like took a break. And it was like, watching your videos like that with a lot of story, I really try and put myself there and just being like, there's so much work that goes into this. And
Yeah.
and I think Christmas Truce was one of those that I think a lot of other people saw that too, because most of the comments I saw on that were like, this is like a goddamn movie. Like it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But man, it's exciting. And I don't know if you can divulge this information, but I've heard is there gonna be another video release before next Friday or no? I think we're too close now. Yeah, I don't know. I thought I had heard that, but I wasn't sure. So the album's gonna come out, and bummer, the day the album was coming out was the day that you guys were supposed to start that European headlining tour, which got postponed. And as far as I've seen, the dates aren't fully rescheduled yet, but the tour in Sweden is still on as of right now, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
4th of April it starts. So a month after the album release.
Dude, I was looking at the routing for that, and there's like a show every day. You guys have like
Yeah.
no days off, man.
No,
Like,
perfect. That's the way we like it.
dude, that's some tours I like that, but others, I did one tour once that ruined me for days off. I did merchandise for Van Halen in like 2012.
Yeah.
And those guys are getting so old now that they never did two shows in a row. It was always one show and then at least 2 days off in the next city. And it's like that kind of ruined me from like days off on the road. I was like, I just want to keep going at this point.
Yeah, but the
Like,
thing is that you get when you at a point you get into a certain flow, you know,
yeah,
and every time there's a day off, like when you did, like for me, perfect is like 4 in a row and then a day off, because then you
yeah,
really want it and you need it and want to get away and
yeah,
rest up and whatnot. And but when you have those days off so often, you get kind of thrown off the touring mode, and then you're back into it, and then it's pause again. So now I
yeah.
prefer it to be a bit more. Now we're doing 30 days in Sweden. 30 dates, sorry.
Yeah, I saw that. It goes, so it starts early April and I think it goes to just past mid-May. But
Yeah.
again, yeah, it's and because I'm not familiar with a lot of the towns, you know, other than the major cities in Sweden, what are a lot of those venues? Are a lot of those just like clubs and stuff? Is that going to be small, intimate stuff?
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's the whole plan of the whole tour.
That's awesome, man. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
this is a tour that we have talked about for many years, and I think it's going to be one of the the most fun tours in a very long time. Duh.
Yeah.
It's going to be the best tour in 2 years. Yeah, no
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Well, you know, no, but in a very long time, because like playing those small venues, we rarely do it, and I know that a lot of people in the band want to do it, so I'm super stoked about it. And to see people that up close, it's going to be sweaty, it's going to be rock show sweaty,
yeah.
great. I can't wait for it.
And those are great at times. I actually saw when the Judas Priest tour canceled, I saw you guys did that like last minute show in Denver.
Yeah, that's the kind of venues we're going to do.
Dude,
Yeah,
and I saw somebody had posted like the entire concert on YouTube. It was cell phone footage, so it wasn't the best quality sound or anything, but I watched like the opening few songs of that, and it's like that's the vibe, man. That just like sweaty, loud rock club. We're just like you're
yeah,
right there in the moment, man. I love stuff like that. Now,
yeah, me too.
as a roadie, I'd prefer an arena every day just for the room to work. But in terms of the performance, I get it. And then after that, summer festival season starts,
Yeah,
and
yeah, hell
that's,
yeah.
dude, summer festivals are the best because it's not only is it fun, but it's like a family reunion. I imagine you get to see a lot of people that you don't normally get to.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's maybe kind of the things that you know that we're missing in pandemic. You know,
Hmm.
you would have weekends like that. You would meet, you know, your people, if you will, you know, and hang out. But and that was kind of the normal, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, absolutely. It's a big family, and you meet a lot of people, and also go to see bands. I'm always hanging out, and
Yeah.
I'm always checking the schedule to see who's on the billing, and if I have time, I'll for sure go and watch a few bands. You
Yeah.
know, it's total luxury to be able to do that.
That's I loved years ago before I was teching when I was still doing merchandise. I loved summer festival season because a lot of the times for a merchandise person, you count in your merch with the festival, they sell it for you all day long and then you can just do
Yeah,
whatever. So
yeah,
one of my favorite memories, I think it was like 2015. There's a metal festival in Montreal called Heavy Montreal,
yeah,
and I was doing merch that day, and I had all day to just walk around to every single stage and just watch all these bands that I never normally get to see, and it was just awesome, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I think we played that a few years ago.
yeah, the year I was there, I know you guys weren't, but it was wild. Who was on the stage with us? Right before the band I was working for was Iggy Pop, which was wild. And
Yeah,
yeah, they had like NoFX and some other bands during the day, but then they have the side stage that's your like Black Dahlia Murder and Misery Index and all that stuff. And I was
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much hanging there all day watching that. But
yeah,
now I had something I actually wanted. Speaking of summer festivals, I was always curious about this. So the show at Vakken that you guys did in 2019. Obviously, you had old band members on stage, a lot of moving parts, a lot of pyro, the choir, all of that. How much rehearsal prep do you guys do for a performance like that, especially with band members that haven't played in years?
Yeah. That one was like for starters, it was planned for years.
Oh,
The idea, from the growth of the idea to finish, that's a few years, yeah. And then actual rehearsals, like playing rehearsals, I think we did 5 or 6 days straight, like full days.
wow. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just with the band, obviously, no production, just you guys playing.
No, yeah, yeah, totally. In our rehearsal place, in our studio.
Yeah.
So yeah, but which was also cool because I remember when we were going to do that, I thought that the rehearsals were like it was too many days because the show is coming up. So I just wanted to get there and start playing the show.
Yeah.
But I'm also a very impatient
Yeah.
person. But and then I remember there was a guy from a record label there on the show day, and I don't know if it was because he was a bit nervous, but he asked me several times if I was nervous, and I wasn't, not on that show, because we were so well prepared on that one, like more than we ever have been. So I know my guys; they know what they're supposed to do. The only thing that can happen is a technical issue, but that can happen anywhere, anytime. And I'm
Exactly.
not going to walk around worrying about that. So I was totally fine and relaxed. Well, that's maybe the wrong word, but focused without it getting the overhand. So
Yeah.
no, great, and I really enjoyed it. And that's the thing too. Playing a show like that, it's sometimes you enjoy the show after you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of you're nervous or something happened or whatever. But I could really be there 100% playing that show, which I'm very happy for.
Yeah, and you say you weren't nervous. I don't know if this is the same for you, but at least from my experience being a roadie and working for bands, after doing it for so long, there's almost a sense of like, not that it's the same thing every night, but it's just another show. Like you said, the same things could go wrong at this show that go wrong at any other show. Like
Yeah.
there's almost, at least from my experience, there's almost no reason to really be nervous about anything because it's really, at the end of the day, we're just going to go up there and do the same thing we do every night anyways, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
and I guess like it turns a bit from being nervous to kind of more excitement, and then I would be nervous if I didn't rehearse enough.
yeah.
Those kind of things would take me off more these days. So I make sure that doesn't happen. But no, I don't get nervous like that anymore. More like, yeah, excited about it and looking forward to it.
Yeah. How much do you play nowadays on your own? Like if you're just at home, not even with the band, how much do you just jam or practice?
Well, now the tour is a month away, so
Yeah.
now I play every day a few hours.
Yeah. It's so funny.
Yeah,
Like before we started recording, I told you that I had, I wanted to get back into playing drums because when I was in a band, I played bass. So recently I was like, oh, no, I'll get an electronic drum kit back at home, which is, very different from playing an acoustic kit. It's a different feel for sure.
yeah,
But I've always had a good rhythm, but I haven't sat on an actual drum kit in like 4 years.
yeah,
And in my head, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be able to sit back down and I'll just pick everything back up and be fine." Dude, I
yeah.
was I was streaming on Twitch when I first started playing drums, and I was like, in my head, I'm like, I fucking suck. Like I haven't played in so long, man.
Yeah.
And it's like that's the things that people don't see. A good example of this is that when I was living with the drummer for Red when I was teching for him, and he eventually actually, before their drummer they have now, he was drumming for In Flames for like a few years too.
Okay.
And when I lived with him, he had rented out a storage unit near our house and set up his drums in it. The owner of the storage unit let him go in there like after hours when nobody was there and just play in the storage unit. He would go in there for like 4 to 6 hours a day, every
Yeah.
single day to practice and play. And I think that's, people don't see that. they go to shows and they see their favorite musicians play on stage, and they don't get to see all that time that's spent practicing and honing in those skills. And like,
Yeah.
it's a lot of time, man.
Yeah, it is, and it's a lot of time. Like these days, I would want to practice more than I do, but then life happens. Also, yeah, what I'm talking about, and so I really enjoy. I'm looking at the drums. That's why I'm looking that way.
Yes.
Uh, in a sense of that, sitting down and practicing something you're bad at. When I do that, I really enjoy doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great because the progress. Okay, I really suck at starting a drum fill with my right hand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then I'm gonna start doing that. But then it comes to the part. It's also a lot about how you practice. You can sit for 8 hours, but you need a good plan that's going to get you somewhere, especially starting up.
Yeah.
But I hear you out with not playing for 4 years and then sitting down because it's.
Dude,
I can have nightmares about that, but
I mistakenly was like, oh, this will be like riding a bike. I'll be able to still do the same double bass tricks I was doing and everything. And and it's not even just that, it's just the timing too. Like I was so thrown off, but there is something gratifying, like what you're talking about working on things you're not good at. There are certain beats or leading into fills that feel unnatural for me to practice, that when I do practice them, there's like a certain click in your head that when you do it right and you feel it, you're like, that's how that's supposed to go. And I get so excited about those moments, man.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, totally. And then it's almost like your body's like, this is how it's done. You're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
We have a song. So here's when Yuki writes songs on some of the songs. He has a great way of thinking about drums. And I have we have one song called The Lost Battalion.
Mm-hmm.
And if you would listen to it, it sounds like the simplest of drum beats, right? So when I was rehearsing for that recording, which was The Last Stand, I kind of I listened to it a few times, like, okay, that's an easy one. I'll take that later. Then I focus on the more trickier ones. And then I kind of forgot about it a little bit. And when the night before we came to the studio, we were going to stay over and start the next morning. I'll run through the songs, and then I started like, hey, but wait a minute. And I'm like, okay, I have to go in and start playing it. And it turns out it's a total mindfuck, that song. And it's the same beat, the whole song. But when you start digesting it,
yeah,
like what actually happens where, that's the most difficult song on that whole album. Yeah. So I sat the whole night practicing that because I couldn't come up in the morning and not knowing the song, But now when I know it, it's super easy.
Yeah. It's interesting listening to other music and working for different drummers too. Like when I was teching, every drummer has a different feel that's almost kind of like their signature thing. And where you can usually hear it the most is in a lot of fills. Like for example, Joe, the drummer for Red and In Flames, some of the things that he did when I would watch him play live, I was like, why is he first of all, why is he even doing it like that? But how is he doing it like that? Because I'll sit down and try and do that same fill and it just feels weird. But then there are other drummers that would do it differently. And you see that a lot when like different drummers join bands, they'll do fills differently and stuff like that because every single drummer has their own little unique style that's different from everybody else's. And it's really cool. Yeah. So one of the things that, I wanted to talk to you about because it's kind of like what I'm doing too is you've been getting really into photo and video stuff. And, I know you've been doing a lot of stuff for Floor and helping Tommy out a lot with the Majestica stuff. Have you always been into video stuff or is that something that's somewhat new to you?
No, I've always been super interested in it. Yeah. And also like photo was always for me, like I got a camera early and I got it at a pawn shop, my first camera, pawn shop in Denver on a US for many years ago. A Canon Mark II, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
probably stolen or something, it's very cheap. But so like going on tour was great to get up in the morning. You have a lot of time to kill sometimes. Grab a cup of coffee, go bring your camera and get out, or put in music in your ears or whatever, and stroll around and take
Yeah.
photos. And not necessarily. I rarely do anything with my photos. Like I can edit them and then I put them on a hard drive and I don't post them. Some photos I post, but for me, it maybe is that that process is more important than the result.
Is it just like kind of like a relaxing therapeutic thing for you to just go out and just take photos?
Yeah, and
Yeah, cool.
especially edit them. I love that stuff.
Yeah.
And so yeah, no, always been very interested in it. And just that the pandemic came along gave me a lot of more time to do it. And then my wife decided to bring her YouTube channel to life. So
Yeah. Dude, it's so funny. I feel like I've got to bring this up. Like, so when I first started doing Nightwish reactions, a joke came up on my channel because in a lot of their videos, they're using the same gear all the time, every single time. And the joke came up that Empu is always playing his signature ESP EV1. And if I forgot to say that in a video, people would lose their minds.
right.
So then when I started doing Sabaton videos, I
Mhm.
think one of the first times I ever did one is I didn't know that you and Floor were married, and somebody in the comments said that you were married. So the next video I did, I threw that in there for trivia, and then somehow that became the thing.
All
Where
right.
every time I did a Sabaton video, everybody expected me when I talked about your gear to be like, "Oh, he's also married to Floor from Nightwish."
Right.
And then I got tired of just doing it because I'm like, to me, and I hope this doesn't come off disrespectful, but it's like, that seems irrelevant to the video. We're talking
Yeah.
about gear and production. It's like, you know what I mean?
Oh
So
yeah.
in the last few, I haven't brought that up at all, and I get like 50 comments that are like, "Why didn't you say that he's married to Floor?" And I'm like, "Oh, fucking everybody knows. Like, come on, it's not a big deal." Like,
Yeah. Imagine then if we divorce.
oh my god.
What do you? Then it's gonna hit the fucking fan.
Oh my god, dude. It
Just for
is,
the record, we're not gonna divorce yet. But
dude. It's so amazing to me the things that people like to know about like the personal lives of their bands. It's like or the bands that they like. Like everybody always, even if it's people that see my videos for the first time, they're like, "Hey, did you know that Hannes is married to Floor?" And like I at this point I ignore those comments because I'm just like again, like, yes, I know and it's not a big deal. But
yeah,
it's just funny, man. Like people seeing some people that are really passionate about their favorite bands like argue with each other online. It's like it's so wild. And
but I have to say though that I find that I don't read too much, but I found like since being very active on YouTube and working a lot with it, YouTube is its own forum. I think that it's like it's actually quite funny to read all the comments because it's
yeah.
like there's a great sense of humor
Yeah.
and it's like I think it's great really and I really enjoy it and people are like there's some really funny comments coming up.
Oh yeah.
So
Dude,
yeah,
there does I get them on my page just doing reactions and I legitimately get laughs sometimes from some of the things people are able to come up with. But
yeah,
there is kind of a darker side to it though that I don't like. That if I see comments like this, I just delete. I usually don't delete comments even if it's people saying negative things. But
yeah,
if it crosses a certain line, that's completely different. And when you usually get that darker stuff that to me is inappropriate and unnecessary, anytime it's a female fronted band. Um, I'm not going to name the band because I don't know if this is public knowledge, but there is a female fronted metal band that I have been told from their label that she cannot even go on YouTube and read the comments because of how inappropriate and like misogynistic and nasty they are half the time. Like she can't even go read the comments to her own videos because it like bums her out. And it's like, that's kind of
yeah.
the
No,
negative to that.
oh yeah, totally. And it doesn't belong there at all. So
No, no. And
no,
and I've seen like you know, I've seen the same with Nightwish videos at times. It's not as bad, but like I've seen people say inappropriate things about Floor, even Tarja when she was in the band, stuff like that. And I don't know, like I'd be curious to know how you guys handle with that kind of stuff, because really quick, going back to what we were just saying, people are really kind of obsessed with like trying to dig into the personal lives of the bands that they know. And it's like, you know, you guys are married and you have a kid and stuff like that. Do you guys pretty much just stay out of that kind of stuff online? I mean, you seem like pretty private people for the most part to me.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I am like affected by it much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember like even joining a new band, like joining or whatever band, you know, and then you would do your first show, and then you would read comments, and there will be 9 out of 10 comments are great, and they are super
Yeah.
positive, and they are encouraging and whatnot, you know, like it should be on there, because that's what it's for. But then someone would write, you know, oh, he has a ugly nose, or what a bad example, but you know,
No,
or
it's always something ridiculous.
something, right?
Yeah.
And I remember reading that, and I'm like, when I scrolled through the comments, this is so many years ago, but nobody said anything about the way I played,
Yeah.
because it was all about how I looked, or you
Yeah.
know, whatever.
That means you
And
can
I'm like,
play.
yeah, and as long as like, that would hurt me, you know,
Yeah.
if somebody would write that, then I would immediately go out and practice it more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to think I have an ugly nose, I probably do, and that's fine, you know, totally fine. But you know what I mean? So then that would
Yeah.
affect me a lot more when it comes to me being a professional musician. That I would take that in.
You know,
But the bullshit part, like I really don't care. I don't have the time to care. And that's as simple as that is, I guess.
it was funny when I first started doing the YouTube thing. I had to make an adjustment to that because, like you said, 9 out of 10 comments that you see on any video are positive.
Yeah, totally.
It's good stuff. But for some reason, the way that we're wired in our heads, it's that one negative, shitty comment
Yeah.
that just drills at us. And I don't know why that is. It's like I have to remind myself constantly anytime I see like a really out of left field inappropriate comment from somebody like making fun of me, which I don't care. I can take it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I knew what I signed up for when I did YouTube, but I have to constantly remind myself. It's like there are 100 other super positive comments about this. Like,
Yeah.
don't think about this one stupid one that this person's literally just trying to get a rise out of you anyways.
No,
You know?
indeed. And this okay, thank you. Bye.
Yeah. And one
Yeah.
of the other things that I really respect too, because my wife and I do the same, is you and Flora pretty much keep your daughter out of social media and stuff like that. And that was a very big thing when we had our daughter too. I was like, you know, lots of people were like, oh, bring her on YouTube and oh, stuff like that. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to do that. And
No.
I just basically, I just want to bring that up to say, like, I have a lot of respect for you guys about that, because there are a lot of other people that do bring their kids into their social media lives. And a lot of the times it seems almost as if they're using them as like an object for more views and stuff.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
I guess for us, it's as simple as I think it's her choice,
Mm-hmm.
and now she's too young to make that choice.
Yep.
But I mean, we didn't have this problem when we grew up, because there was no YouTube. And
Exactly. Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
was going to put you on, well, maybe the Nirvana album cover without you wanting it.
Yes.
But so then I don't know, like maybe she doesn't fucking want to be on some stupid YouTube video, whatever, you know. Then it's up to her when she can choose in 15 years, and that's fine.
It's really cool that you said that, because for me, I'm more of the, in my mindset, I was like, there's a lot of weirdos on social media and that's why I don't want her there. But my wife said the same thing you said. She was like, it's more of a consent thing. She's 11 months old. She can't tell us whether she wants to be online or not. And I was like,
No.
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about, before we wrap this up, and we may not. I don't know how long of a story this is, but this is one of those things that I think is true, but it was on the internet. So you've probably been asked this a bunch, but I've never heard it, and I would like to hear it from you. I want to know the story about your surname, your last name.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I read online, you can give me the story yourself, but I did read
Yep.
online that Van Dahl is like you legally changed it to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, so it's like actually a really stupid thing, actually, because we were like, I guess, like just turned 18, because you can't change your name here
Yeah.
before that. And we were drinking beer in my apartment, and then all of a sudden, so here's the full scope of it. There was an old artist in Sweden called Carl Pedal, which is a rhyme, right? And
Hmm.
my middle name is Carl. So he comes to me and he says, if you would add a P between Carl and Dahl, you would be called the same. And I'm like, yeah, but why would I do that? It's like, yeah, okay. And then it came up scandal on the table for suggestions as well to add scan before.
Yeah.
And then so, but what about Vandal, And yeah, that's cool, whatever. And we kept drinking. An hour passes or something like that. This guy comes to me with a piece of paper and he says, sign here. Okay. I signed it. And on our way to the pub or the bar, we put it on the mailbox. 3 weeks later, I get a letter from the government, and it literally said, previous name, new name. And I forgot about it. Like, what the fuck is this? Oh yeah, was that paper we posted? So there it is. And it was like totally bad timing as well, because I was going on tour, which means my passports were
Oh
not valid.
no.
So I had to get like one of those, that like what is it called, preliminary passports or whatever,
Yeah.
that last like 6 months to be able to make the tour.
Dude, that's like the shittiest part of the story. Like that you
Yeah, I don't
did.
know if I
Yeah.
told that before, but that was like, oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's invalid the moment you change your name, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same,
No,
dude. So that is, I'm surprised the internet actually wins that one because that is
there we
very
go.
close to the story that I read. But that part about the passport is wild. That sucks. It's almost the same. My wife had the same thing happen when we got married. She took my name, and
Yeah,
then we didn't think about that. Where it's like, oh, you got to get a new passport now, and it's
yeah,
like, so we had to get a passport expedited for like a trip we were taking and stuff like that, and like.
yeah,
That's dude, I didn't even think about something like that. You had to pretty much change everything you had then, right? IDs, credit cards, debit.
yeah. All of it.
Oh man.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's I mean, that is one hell of a funny story though.
yeah.
I mean, that's gonna
Yeah,
be
it's been so long, and then a
yeah.
lot of people think I'm Dutch also.
Yeah.
This sounds very Dutch, which is like total random that I'm also married to one.
Yeah. I think
So
I
when we're
actually
in the Netherlands, a lot of people ask me if I'm Dutch. I'm like, no, not at all. I'm very Swedish.
yeah, that's actually funny because the first time I think I did do a Sabaton video, I remember looking at everybody's names and I was like, Swedish, Swedish, Swedish. That one's definitely Dutch.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Um,
actually did one of those tests a couple of years ago where you can see, where you're from,
oh yeah, yeah,
and I was like so excited to what I could find. But no, it was Swedish, like 100%.
yeah.
I
Well,
was like, that's it. Like,
yeah.
we did like, yeah, like ancestry.
That's what we did too.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's funny being American because I've talked with a lot of the people that are on like our Discord and stuff about ancestry stuff because since I've started doing YouTube like a year and a half ago, I've gotten so much more into like other countries' cultures and like I
yeah.
can get to the point where I can see somebody's name and pretty much guess where they're from or hear an accent and guess where they're from. And because remarkably, somehow the majority of my viewer base on YouTube is actually European. It's not
Oh,
American
cool.
at
That's
all.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, like the number one country is Germany, and then after that, it's like Sweden, Finland, UK, and it's like so. I talk to a lot of Swedes and a lot of Finns almost daily at this point. But when we did the ancestry thing, I was like, what's going to come up here? Because being American,
Yeah.
we're pretty much just everything thrown in.
Yeah.
And the funny thing with Americans is they like to find out what their ancestry is and then pick the one thing that they think is coolest and tell everybody that. So
Right. Right.
you'll get somebody that's like 5% Italian and they'll be like, he's like, yo, my family's Italian. And I was like, yeah, maybe your great, 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 great grandmother was or something. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Irish and Italian is really popular in the US. That's what people usually pick. So
Yeah.
me growing up, I was always told that my mom's side of my family was Irish and Romanian. And then my dad's side of my family was like Scottish and Welsh or something. And then when I got my DNA test back, it's like everything's way less than what I was told. It's like Welsh was the number one thing, followed by Irish. And then it's like there's like Romanian, Danish, Swedish, Dutch, English. Like it's insane, man. Like most people that do a DNA test in the US are going to get like 12 different results at least.
Yeah, which is amazing if you think about it.
Yeah.
It's also in that sense a very young country,
Mm-hmm.
and so naturally it's going to be like for coming from all over the place.
Yeah. And it's
We
funny.
used we have until 10, just so you know.
Oh, wow. We can keep going then. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. Perfect. It's interesting because when I travel out of the country and somebody asks like, they're like, oh, where are you from or what are you or whatever, American, of course, you know. But when you're in the US and you ask another person that, they always go back to like their roots of their ancestry. So you'll get a lot of people saying, you know, German, Swedish, Italian, Irish, Dutch, all that stuff. It's fascinating to me that people really latch onto that over here, even though it's probably less than a quarter of their actual genetic makeup.
Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe something to be proud of.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I was just disappointed. I wanted to find some
Yeah.
really cool stuff, or
Yeah. Another one of my Finnish friends did that recently, and the same thing happened. He was hoping there was going to be something cool in there, and he's like, "Nah, it's 100% Finn."
Yeah, yeah. Same for me. 100% Swedish.
Yeah, that's funny, man.
Yeah.
And I get really into my family history. One of the things I enjoy doing is the ancestry.com stuff. My one side of my family has done a really good job at keeping records of our entire family line. And one of the things, I was actually telling my grandparents about Sabaton the other day and they're like both 90. They think that rock and roll and metal is the devil. Like they wouldn't get it. So, but my dad's side of my family is very military background. And one of my great, great, great grandfathers was a major general for the Union in the American Civil War. And I actually have like, I don't know if you can see on the wall back there, that's actually his sword that he used like on the field in battle.
Oh wow.
And I have some parts
So
of
that's
his.
from the Civil War. That sword.
What's up?
That's from the Civil War. Was used there.
Yeah, I have 3 of them. I have two that he used in battle, and one that was just for dress for like celebratory stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then I have some of his medals and stuff like that. So because my grandparents are really into the military history and stuff, I started telling them about Sabaton, and I was like, yeah, there's this band from Sweden that all of their music is like historical based. It's not always military, but a lot of it is, and it's all historical. And I was telling them, I was like, yeah, they have a new album coming out that's like a part 2 of their last album that was about World War I. And I started telling them about all these stories that I've learned from your music and then from Sabaton history and stuff. And they're like, we don't learn about that kind of stuff. I was like, I know. It's insane. Like the history, the one thing that I've seen common amongst Sabaton fans is how much people learn from the actual music, because especially in the US, our education system teaches us very US centric stuff. We don't learn about something unless the US was directly involved with it.
Yeah.
So the fact that you guys do Sabaton history and all this stuff with your music. It's just very impressive to me that you guys have transcended beyond music, man. I mean, it's a very cool thing. And because, you know, you're not an original member of the band, what was coming into Sabaton, did it make you get more into history, or were you already kind of into this stuff before you joined?
No, it totally got me more into it.
Yeah.
I was not very interested at all in before, you know, and I always found it to be important, but I wouldn't dig much deeper than the general story or what you saw on a documentary. But coming into a band where now then Joachim and Per are the only original members left, where there's I guess it doesn't really matter what it is, but it's a genuine interest in something, and that kind of really rubs off.
Yeah.
So you would hear them talk about stories, or we would start making Heroes, which was my first album. And you hear these stories and you start reading about them that are going on to the album. And you start to wonder, why haven't I seen this in a movie? It's like crazy stories, you know, in different ways, you know. So yeah, totally more interested these days.
Does it
100%?
This might be a weird question, but some of the backgrounds of these songs, does it affect your playing live at all? In terms of, like, let's say a certain song comes up and it's a story that you connect to, or you're in that country of that the song is about.
Yeah.
Does that energize you more sometimes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And we played also some places where an actual person or, you know, descendant of that person is there.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
So I mean, one example is we played in Brazil, and we have a song about the smoking snakes, which was an expeditionary force that Brazil sent for World War II. And in comes this guy. He's 94, I think. And this song is about his, company. And I think he was one out of two still alive, or very few anyway.
Wow.
He had a translator, and his son was there. And the first thing he does, that he looks at me and he does this with his hand, and then he does. I'm like, what did he say? He said, "No, you're too tall. You're going to be shot by a sniper immediately." So he said that guy can't go to war.
Wow.
He was, joking, but
yeah, but still,
then,
I mean, it's...
we got him in this because he's 94, so he can't be in the pit, So he was up on the balcony, and we could play this song, and he was, super special moment in that sense,
Yeah.
So for sure, it can be.
Yeah.
And also what I think is super nice is that when we do travel different countries, different songs comes onto the set list, which kind of, as a musician, keeps it super fresh all the time. If we would do European tour, we come to Czech Republic, we're going to add a few songs that are about that history. When we come to Sweden, it's going to be a couple more. So instead of doing the same set list, kind of keeps you on your toes, and it's nice to keep those songs active in that sense, like rehearsal wise.
And I imagine when you're in Sweden too, the lyrical translation can change as well, because obviously you've got some songs that are probably going to be sung in Swedish instead. And I imagine the crowd probably goes just ape shit for that, I remember I think it was the second or third video I ever saw from you guys was in Liefste de Krieg from the Great Tour. And it
from
was
Gothenburg.
Oh my God, dude. I mean, that was like, I'm not Swedish, and that teared me up watching that. It's ridiculous. That's one of the things about your music that I find fascinating, is like, I've watched these videos and then I've read the stories, and it's like, I feel a sense of pride for a country that I have like no connection to whatsoever. Like songs like 40 to 1 or, God, there was another one off the top of my head I was going to name and I'm having a blank, but it makes me feel for another country that I've like have no connection to other than that. And I think that's just such a really cool thing about the music, man. It's so fun. It's so fun and fascinating. And not only I've heard stories about teachers that use your music to teach their kids in schools.
Yeah, I think that's super awesome when they do. Yeah,
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 that's
totally great. I mean, if it can be used in that sense and people learn a thing or two, that's great. And I also think it's super cool too if you just want to drink beer and headbang and
yeah,
just enjoy heavy
yeah,
metal. And if you want to totally go dig deeper, History Channel Indie is waiting for you.
yeah.
If he's still alive after the Unkillable Soldier.
Dude, how fun was that scene where you guys were just standing over him, just just basically killing him?
Yeah, great. I mean, it's over the top,
Yeah,
awarely over the top, and that was a great shoot. It was
yeah,
so much fun. And one thing that he told us, and which was like great, was that I don't know if you remember this. There's a scene where I shoot him, and Chris and I think Tommy is doing a high five.
yeah. They're like cheering.
Right. And Indy is a historian, right?
Yeah,
And he knows so much, this guy. So after we did that and we had a bit of a break and a coffee, and this is supposed to be 1914, I think,
yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
He comes up and he says, "Boys, just so you know, the high five wasn't invented until 1979 or something like that." And we're like, "Oh shit." But hey, whatever. It's
Dude,
it's a good joke.
dude, that's amazing. There are people that watch your videos that I saw somebody comment and be like, that gun that they're using in the music video wasn't invented yet. And I'm just like, I mean, I don't know that. It didn't ruin it for me. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many people that are on the internet that are quick to point out like little stuff like that are just like, whether it's the gun style or stuff. And then there are people that are really knowledgeable. Like, I think it was another video that there was a certain plane in it, and
Mhm.
somebody was like,
Our video.
yeah, and
Yeah.
somebody in the comments was like, oh, that country was not using that plane in that year. I'm like, how do you even know that? Like,
Yeah.
it's like it's funny, man. But the accuracy with everything is
Yeah, but
just
that's the thing. Like we never said that we were history professors or teachers. We do
yeah.
as good as we can as musicians and being very interested in it.
But even in that sense, as just musicians that are delivering the history, you guys are still incredibly accurate with the storytelling and stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty damn impressive, man.
Try to get it as right as we can.
Yeah. So going to your live show, I've always asked. Obviously, most people that know the band now know like you're playing on a fucking tank during the shows, which is incredible. But there's a lot of pyro on that thing too. Does that ever affect you playing, or have you had any weird incidents, like accidents with any pyro related stuff on the tank?
Very rarely, actually. I
Yeah.
mean, I had 30 days of Joachim shooting me with a bazooka.
Yeah.
Like literally day in and day out. That's what I've been doing. Oh, here
Yeah.
it comes. And the thing was that was like in the end of Night Witches. Have you seen that when he
Yeah.
comes
Yeah.
up?
Yeah.
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 And the thing is that the whole tank kind of like it shakes like hell, because it's like properly loaded, that thing.
Wait, hold on. So, from when I first saw that video and I saw that,
Mhm.
I assumed that there was just like a flash pod or something connected to your tank that triggered at the same time. He's actually shooting something at the tank?
No, 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 no. I mean,
Okay, I was okay.
the bazooka is shooting, and there's things coming out of pyro
Yeah.
coming out of that, but the tank is like prepped like hell, man.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, and then it's connected, and then everything happens at once.
Yeah.
But still, though, like it wouldn't make much difference if you would actually shoot
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. I just realized how dumb that sounded when I asked that because I used to be a pyrotechnician, and right when that came out of my mouth, I was like, that would never clear fire codes. Like,
No, no,
but
no, we get shut down.
yeah.
But yeah, no. But I remember a few years ago, many years ago, just when we got the tank, we had CO2 coming out of. So we have two tanks. We have Audi and we have. Now I'm blanking out. Walter.
That's right.
Those
Yeah.
are the names. Yeah.
I was trying to remember it too, and I forgot.
Yeah. So when we had Audi, there was it was CO2 coming out, and I was playing, and then at one point I'm like, it's so fucking cold. I was freezing, and like especially like from here up until here, you know, kind of the worst part.
Yeah.
And I realized that one of the hoses for the CO2 had come loose.
No.
And I was in the middle of a song, and the next one would start straight off. And I'm like trying to contact somebody on stage, like, help, you know, and my hands were getting like, because it's freezing, that stuff,
Yeah.
obviously. Yeah. 2 songs later, we had a pyro guy coming up with a wrench. And he was like walking very slowly over stage. And then he looked at me and he gave me the thumbs up. Like, why are you giving me the thumbs up? And then he would screw the thing back on again, and it was all fine.
Oh man, I actually
I had Per come up to me on stage, and he's like, "Look at my beard!" And there's like half a decimeter that came off, you know, and it's
oh no way,
still glowing, you know. It's like, "Look at my beard," you know. So he was too close with his head.
Dude, I actually made a drummer almost pass out once. We did a show in this like really low ceiling club, and we were using 6 CO2 jets on stage for special effects, and 2 of them were on the back of the drum riser on the corners. And the last like downbeat of the last song on the trash can ending, he's up there just, you know, doing this, and I'm holding the CO2 going off, and the whole stage is covered in you know, the gas that comes out and stuff like that. And it's CO2, so it's not, you know, dangerous or anything. But what it does is it rips all the oxygen out of the air. And I learned a very bad lesson that day, because our drummer started throwing his drumsticks off the stage at me to try and get me to stop. And finally, when I stopped,
he did understand that was it, though, you know, or maybe there was no doubt about it, that was the cause of it.
No, he knew that was it. Like, he was like, because I held that CO2 shot for like a good 20 seconds. And because the ceiling was only maybe like 8 feet, like 2.5 meters, something like that, it was low, and all of it hit the ceiling and came back down and engulfed everybody on the stage, so they couldn't breathe. And that was like, I had never even thought of that until that day, and I learned a hard lesson. And then when the smoke cleared, he's like holding onto his floor tom, like bent over, like about to pass out, because there's no oxygen when all that stuff's up there. It's crazy, man, learning like, and it's sucks that we have to learn those in the moment sometimes like that, you know?
Yeah, but that's the hard way. We had a good one we had a butt kicker. On the riser.
Yeah.
And me and my drum tech Kebe have been laughing about this for many years since it happened, because it's like a total display of bad communication, you know, between everyone, where the whole show, it has that, like, it just been going lower and lower and lower. So at the point I can't feel it anymore. So for the people that don't know what a butt kicker is, it's a subwoofer you place under a drum chair or whatever, and every time you hit your bass drum, it's going to shake, right? Instead of putting a big subwoofer monitor up there, you can screw that onto whatever. You can have it on your office chair if you want that.
Yeah.
And it's goes through an amp and so forth. And I was like, why is it not? It's not working. And Kebe would then crank up the amplifier. The monitor guy would crank up the input signal. And at one point we come to encores and we have a little break. So we're standing discussing this. What are we supposed to do? Because the thing is not working. And then, fuck it. We'll play the show anyway. It's not much of a big deal. Just when I go back up for encore, and this is a big show too. And then Kebe has the idea that maybe the mic has been coming out of the bass drum, like the simplest fucking solution, you know? So he goes around the kit and, the mic is a meter away from the bass drum, you know? So guess what happens? He puts it back in.
Oh, no.
And dude, that chair was shaking so much, I flew off of that chair. It's like, and I just flew off the drum kit. And then what the fuck happened, you know?
Oh my God.
We had to restart the song.
Dude, it's always the dumbest, simplest thing on the road when something
Yeah,
goes wrong.
yeah,
Always. Like I can't remember who I was telling this to, but I there were times where I liked the challenge. I always want a show to go perfect, but we all know that rarely ever happens. Something
yeah.
always goes wrong. It's technology. Um, but I always liked the challenge of something going wrong and trying to fix something. And one day, this was a couple of years ago before the pandemic started, one of the guitar players that I was teching for, his whole complete rig just went down. It stopped working. So I was like, okay. Went and checked the amps. The tubes are still on. Everything's good. Went and looked at the pedal board. Everything's lit up. All the connections are plugged in. I was like, I have no idea what's going on. So I just put him on a cable and was like, sorry, dude, you're just going to have to play straight out of your amp the rest of the show. And then the next day when I'm setting up, I noticed that the power block from the SDI box, because we ran XLRs for all of our looms, was unplugged like that much,
Right.
and it was enough to not power the XLR lines for his rig. And I'm like, that's it? Just that
Yeah.
little thing out of
Oh
everything that
yeah.
happened? Like,
Yeah.
and then going back to pyro, one of the worst things I ever saw that happen was, and I can't imagine, dude, like the safety and the fire marshal drills your guys have to do, because you guys have a lot of the walkthroughs and demos that they have to do have got to be
Yeah.
insane because you guys
Yeah.
have so
Every
much.
day.
One of the worst things I ever saw was Five Finger Death Punch. Actually, this happened too. We did a festival that Five Finger Death Punch was on, and they were playing right before 3 Days Grace, and 3 Days Grace had a ton of pyro. So the whole back downstage edge of the behind their set pieces was just propane tanks. That's just everywhere. The monitor engineer for Five Finger Death Punch was running the monitor for the drummer so high that the thing lit on fire. And the drum tech, and this is immediate gut reaction, I may have probably done the same thing. The drum tech grabs the monitor while it's on fire and tosses it behind him off the back of the drum riser into the propane tanks that 3 Days Grace has for their show. And like the stage manager for the festival like started evacuating the stage and like shut down the show, made everybody get out because they were expecting like a bomb to go off basically.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's like, so yeah, when you have pyro in your shows like that, man, it's nothing to play around with.
No, totally not. There's a reason why there are no smoking on stage signs.
Yeah. Yep. And so I know I've talked to one of them, but how many pyro guys do you usually have out with you?
Um, Three.
Okay, I was gonna say it's got to be at least a couple for all of that.
Yeah, usually three or more actually. Yeah, let's say between three and five, depending on the show.
So when you guys are doing a headlining tour, like the tour that was supposed to get out, which is funny because I've told some people like, we haven't talked in detail about it, but like I wanted to go to Europe to see some of those shows, and hopefully I will when the tour goes on. But when you tour on a headlining tour like that, what does your touring party usually look like? Because obviously you've got the band members and your own techs and stuff like that, but I imagine you've got a lot of people traveling with you guys.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I said, and it depends on the tour
Yeah.
and where it is. I guess last European tour was around 100.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
give or
that's
take.
that's that. So I was trying to tell people like when I saw the Great Tour live videos, obviously I didn't see any of the buses or trucks in the video, but just from everything that was on stage, I'm like, they've got to have at least 6 or 7 semi trucks out there, probably 6, 7 buses for all the people that are traveling at least. Like it's not, and that going back to what we were talking about days off. One of the other reasons bands don't want to take days off is because if you take a day off on tour, you're not making money, you're losing money. Like all of that stuff has to be rented and paid for and stuff like that. It's a lot of cost, man. But
You got to plan it well.
yeah, very well.
Yeah,
So
we had a great moment on that tour where we striped the trucks with that poster for that tour, which was the five of us walking towards like this total movie set kind of poster. And the first day I was coming in, me and Chris, I think it was, coming into the venue, the first day of the tour, and we didn't get our laminates yet. So we show up and there's a guard there. I think this was in Austria, and he's like, "Yeah, show me your laminates." Like, "Yeah, we didn't get it yet. You know, it's the first day. We'll get it inside." It's like, "Yeah, but I'm not letting you in without the laminates." Trying to get a hold of the tour manager, the production manager, nobody picks up because it's like a total bunker in there, so nobody can have reception. It's like this guy's seriously not letting us into the venue. And then I see the trucks. Yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pull this move now. I'm like, excuse me, you see those trucks there? And he looks at them like, yeah, that's me to the left, and that's Chris over there. And he looks at us, and he goes over to the trucks, and he stands there a good while, man, like looking at these pictures. And then he walks back to us again, and he goes back and forth, and he says, "What?" He said, "You look better on this one," you know. Like, yeah, fair enough. And then we actually got into the venue.
Yeah, I laugh because that's literally happened to me and people I've worked for so many times. Like, not even just first day of tour. We had a girl out with us. I think she was doing lighting on a tour a couple of years ago where she'd never toured before. She'd always worked in a shop for a lighting company. And yeah. she didn't understand that you needed to have your laminate on you at all times to get in and out of the building. Yeah. So she came to the bus after the show. Dude, how much does that dog weigh?
70 kilos.
Oh my God. My dog is like half the size of that.
Yeah, oh, he's man. A big guy, but he's only 1 year old, so he's actually still a puppy.
Oh my God. Dude, our dog just turned 8 and he's like half that size.
Yeah.
That's funny.
They call them gentle giants.
Oh yeah. So back to what I was telling you. Sorry, no, I got distracted by the dog. I love dogs. This girl came out to the bus to get her shower bag to go inside and shower, but she left her tour pass on the bus. She goes inside, and this is at the Bell Center in Montreal, big building and very tight with security. She goes into the dressing room to take a shower. She comes back out, and I guess she gets lost, like trying to get back out to the buses.
Okay, yeah, which can happen.
Yeah,
they're such huge places.
So she's doing loops around like the backstage area of the Bell Center, and security sees her, and security's like, "Hey, can you show us your tour pass?" And she's like, "Oh, I left it on the bus," and they're like, "Yeah, you need to come with us," and they literally detained her because they thought that she was a crazy fan that had snuck backstage.
Right.
And our tour manager had to like come inside and go to their security office, and she's in there like bawling. She's like so terrified and scared because that she's going to get in trouble. And then he's like, the tour manager's like, no, she's with us. And they're like, okay, we just thought she snuck backstage. And he's like, she's wearing sandals and has a shower bag with her. Like, what, you know, sometimes the security people just take too far. I've seen Papa Roach, their band members don't even use tour laminates anymore. Their tour manager takes a picture of them and puts them on every door backstage of the venue and tells their security in their meeting, like, here's their picture. They don't wear passes. Let them in wherever they go. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
I guess you have to look very much the same every day.
Yeah.
And my favorite one was at a festival a couple of years ago where I like to go up on stage to check out my drums and talk to Keb, have a coffee or whatever during the day, you know. And I show up and he's like, "Yeah, show me your laminate." I'm like, "Yeah, here it is, AAA." And he's like, "You need 4As." I'm like, "What?" Yeah. Like, you're kidding, right? He's like, "No, you need 4." I'm like, "What the fuck? Maybe I missed something, you know? I never heard that." Yeah. I'm like, "Okay, what does the fourth A stand for?" He's like, "Access," and he didn't know, like, dude. And he wouldn't let me on stage. I'm like, okay. So I had to call somebody on stage that could come and escort me up, you know. But I still wonder today, access all areas, all done.
Yeah, I've never heard something like that. No, I've been stopped many times trying to as an opener trying to go on stage to watch a headliner or something, and they're like, "Oh, you don't have the right pass," or what. I'm like, "No, I do. It's just different from the headliners." Like a lot of the security people at these venues don't really pay attention to their security briefings.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the worst one I ever had was I was walking the guitar player that I work for to stage from the dressing room while the intro is rolling. And we get to the side of the stage, and the security person takes out their flashlight. It's like dark stage. The intro is rolling. Security takes out their flashlight and goes, like, looking at the side of his pants, like, "Laminate, you got your tour pass?" And he's got his guitar on. Like, he's like holding his guitar with his wireless pack on, ready to go. And he's like, "No." She goes, "Oh, you can't go on stage." And I'd like literally was like, "He's in the band." And she's like, "I was just told nobody can go on stage without a pass." And I'm like, they're literally about to play. Like,
No, but I love that though. Like,
yeah,
you have one job,
yeah.
and
Some
I'm
people,
gonna do it.
yeah, yeah. Some people
Yeah,
do those jobs, man.
yeah. Oh hell yeah.
I mean, I've had it happen in arena shows where like during the show, I usually take off my laminate and put it in my work box. And I've tried to go up the stairs from my Guitar World that's right there to go up on stage to do a guitar change, and I'll have a security person like grab me and be like, "Where's your pass?" I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah.
But you know what? At the end of the day, I think I'd rather have them be too secure than not
Yeah.
enough. You know?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
because I mean
great.
we've seen some crazy stuff happen.
Yeah.
And it's funny because people always try and get on stage at a lot of the concerts I've worked at. I don't know why people do that. I don't know why they want to get up there, probably just to be seen or say they did it.
Yeah.
But
Crowd
the
surf.
the thing for us as crew guys is we don't know what people's intentions are when they're getting on stage.
Yeah.
We just assume that everybody is hostile for the most part, and like, security, usually tour security does their jobs really well and stuff like that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so before I let you go here, we got a couple minutes. I just wanted to ask, you know, obviously a lot of people that are familiar with you and Floor and stuff know you have a daughter and all that. Over the last couple of years, touring hasn't been really going on because of the pandemic, so you've been able to be home and stuff. But how is it with both of your touring schedules with your daughter? Does she usually come on the road with one of you guys?
Yeah. Sometimes
Okay.
we've had we haven't had that many overlapping tours throughout the years, so
Hmm.
it's been a lot of planning for sure. You
Yeah.
get really good at planning, and then yeah, for sure, she was definitely. I mean, she was on tour with Floor when she was 8 months
Oh, wow.
in the U.S. for
Yeah.
I don't know, 6 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
Which was like my biggest worry would be that she wouldn't sleep well on a bus.
Hmm.
But man, was I wrong? I mean, it's basically a 30-meter long, stroller that with the
Yeah.
radiator going like,
Dude,
you know how well kids sleep in a
yeah,
car.
I
So
sleep
that was
better in a
like
bus.
no problem at all. She slept like literally a baby.
Yeah.
But then the problem was coming home.
Yeah, it's always my problem.
Yeah,
My wife would give me like she wouldn't give me a hard time, but she's like, "Do you sleep good on the road?" And I was like, "I sleep great on the road." And she's like, "Cause
yeah,
like I do not sleep well at home. I always slept better on the road."
yeah.
Um,
So do I. But then we live in the middle of nowhere and we literally have no neighbors.
yeah,
And here's like it's totally silent. So then it's like, oh yeah. So that was a few weeks getting used back to that. But
yeah,
no, yeah, she's been along for sure.
that's
I
awesome,
think
man.
she was in more countries before she popped out of Floor's belly than most people go in their
And
lives.
yeah, I mean at least it's different over in Europe because all you guys are somewhat close together, but in the States, it's such a big country that I know people that have literally never left their home state, let alone the country. So,
Yeah,
you know, but yeah, I just thought that was cool when I was reading a lot about you guys and your kid and stuff like that because of working in the music industry. When I
yeah,
found out my wife was pregnant, for me, I in my head I was like, I'm done.
yeah,
And that's I've been a roadie for 15 years, and for you guys, and this is just the situation for you guys being band members and stuff like that, it's a little easier for accommodations and stuff in terms of bringing your kid along. I had a lot of people that were telling me, they were like, oh, why don't you just bring your kid on the road? I'm like, I'm not bringing my kid on the road as a roadie for a
Yeah,
band. Like, it's not
yeah.
happening.
No, I get what you mean. I
Yeah.
think like as I think it's also good for them in a way. Like I get it, if you're working, that's super tricky to bring it, and it
Yeah.
wouldn't work, and it's going to be stressful for the parent anyway, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But though my mom always took me traveling a lot everywhere when I was a kid, and so I think it's in terms of just traveling the world. I mean, not bringing them to your
Yeah.
job
Yeah. Yeah.
per se, but I think it's very important
I
to
think
get
it
them out.
is. Yeah. It's very important, especially, especially
But
with
for
the,
us, it was funny when they were on that tour. We had just wrapped up a US tour, and one night we started their tour, I flew over to join them for a couple of weeks, just being a dad. But it was so funny because I would come into a lot of the same venues that we just did, and the dudes when I came in like, "Are you back again?" I'm like, yes, I am, but I'm not playing. I'm
yeah.
just
Yeah.
being a dad, you know. And we could spend all days, you know, being out and checking stuff. I mean, I was out in New York City with her, just strolling around.
Yeah.
So I'm very fortunate to be able to do that, of course. But I just remember that moment of they were like, "You back? You
Yeah.
playing this band as well?" Like, no, 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 no. I'm dad.
Yeah.
No playing for me. Just fun today.
Yeah, I've had that happen on tours, working for people. Like, I'll finish a tour with one band in one area, and then I'll pick up another tour with another band, and I'll be in the same venue I was just in, and same thing. People are like, "Weren't you just here?" And I was like, "Yeah, different work."
Yeah.
It's funny too because when I was reading, because I've been to a lot of the same venues that you have. When I read this story about how you and Floor first met, it was wild for me because when I first heard that story, I had just been to that venue, and I've been to that venue a million times.
Mhm.
It was the intersection in Grand Rapids,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
remember hearing you telling that story about you guys like sitting at the front bar and stuff, and I was like, dude, I've had so many nights where I've probably sat in those same seats like drinking after shows. Like,
Yeah.
it's
So
so
what you're
wild.
meaning is that if you would have been there, you and me would have been married instead.
Possibly, who knows, man?
Yeah, yeah, who knows?
Oh, that's funny. So dude, we've been sitting here for a while, and I really appreciate you for your time. Before we wrap up here and I let you go, I just always like asking this to the guests that are on here. Um, for anybody that's already a fan of your band or that may be new to your band or anything like that, especially in the times that we're in right now, what is the best way, in your opinion, as a band member? What is the best way for fans to support you guys, whether or not it's financial or not, just music or anything like that?
Uh, I think just come out to a show. I think we're all just want to go to shows. I
Yeah.
do, and everybody else. So I'm looking forward to seeing people there, and I can't wait. You know,
Oh
to
yeah.
to uh, to do start touring again, meeting all my friends, and seeing all the fans everywhere around the world, and that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah. Well, I think whenever your European headlining tour happens, I think it's safe to say that's going to be probably sold out almost every date because just from YouTube comments and people on Discord and stuff like that, I mean, people are like hundreds of people that I've seen just on my channel alone have already said that they've got tickets to those shows. So
Cool,
I think it's
super
going to
cool.
be awesome, man. And hopefully I'll be
Yeah.
able to make it over there for some of that too. But just as a reminder to everybody that might be listening, March 4th, the War to End All Wars, new album from Sabaton. That's actually probably going to be the day I'm going to release this. So for anybody that's listening to it on this release day, go get the fucking album. It's out.
Yeah, yeah, enjoy it. I hope you like it. It's been long in the making and even longer for it to come out. So I'm looking forward to hearing what people think about it. I'm super proud of it. I think it sounds great. I think we're playing great. There's some killer solos. I'm a solo guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, hope you like
Well,
it.
with Tommy and Chris, I have you know, no doubts ever whenever I hear a solo coming up in a song. So, and I have all the confidence in the world that this album's going to kick ass, man. I'm looking forward to it. But seriously, man, thank you so very much for your time today. I appreciate it. And, maybe one of these days, if you guys make it back here, I make it to Europe, I'll finally be able to see you guys live.
Oh, cheers. You're more than welcome, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, man.
Take care.
Well, that was awesome, man. I can't think of a better way to kick off this series than in the way that we just did it. So many good stories, so much random conversation, and that's the way that I plan to keep it on this podcast. I don't really like the typical interview format of just questions and answers, and also a lot of these artists get asked the same stuff all the time when they do media stuff daily. This way lets us get to know each other better, and it lets you guys, the listeners, see a more relaxed side of some of your favorite artists. So I hope you guys really enjoyed that. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Music, or Google Podcasts, thank you very much. And once again, thank you to our very first guest, drummer Hannes Van Dahl of Sabaton. Now, just as a reminder, Sabaton's brand new album, The War to End All Wars, is out worldwide now. They're kicking off a Swedish tour in April, then they've got summer festivals, and they're planning on rescheduling their headlining European tour that did get postponed, so be on the lookout for all of that. If you're on social media, you can find me there as well. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, and my handle on all of that stuff is @TankTheTech. Thank you very much once again. Be safe, be kind to each other, and I will see you very soon for another Back Lounge podcast.